Ian,
Chris.
we missed last week's video, but we are back for this week's video.
Was it 1 week or was it 2 weeks?
It might have been two.
Okay.
I don't know. We are back though, talking about movies.
Back in the trap.
Back in the trap. We're not there. Ian, tonight we have checked out a movie, a little indie film called Replicator.
Indeed.
What is Replicator about?
It's about people being replicated. A little bit of a Tommyknockers kind of a story. There's a young woman, she's a DA, and some of the degenerates and deadbeats in the town are all of a sudden turning up, much kinder, more polite, all that, and it's confusing and begins to get to the bottom of it. I think it's a bit of an oversimplification of the story. It's more about her personal journey between her and her father and then her and her friend.
The back of the box says a sinister creature that's taking over the town. And the thing that piqued my interest when I recommended we check this movie out was, one, the artwork seemed like Lovecraftian.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, cool. And I thought the trailer was pretty fun.
Yes.
But we're going to get into a bunch of aspects of this film. But overall, what did you think of Replicator?
Overall, I liked it. I think some of the effects were really cool. It was well shot. I really loved the first two scenes. And I really loved the creature in some of those final scenes.
Yeah.
A lot of the middle dragged a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if there's one thing I could have changed about this, and look, I get what it takes to make a low budget movie. You can't put special effects in every scene.
Sure.
It's gonna blow up the budget. I could have used a little more though, a little more throughout. There's a little bit too much left unseen and assumed. I wish they did less dialogue. I don't even think you needed to improve the dialogue so much but I feel like the dialogue was a bit weak. Because the acting, I think, was strong for this level of project.
Yeah, I think it varied.
I think the dialogue was tricky in some cases. I think some people might interpret that the actors weren't doing the best job, but they were just given tough dialogue.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the thing where they're saying a thing out loud for the sake of the audience that you wouldn't say.
You gonna dry your hands? I mean, there's a towel right there.
You know what? No. If I want to walk around with wet hands, I will.
It's the internal monologue, or the thing that the writer is trying to tell you. Or they're using writing as a solution to demonstrate the story in a way that makes perfect sense in a script. But on screen, there's times when they said what they were thinking out loud when just a meaningful look at the camera or at the other character would have been plenty. Because I think the actors were capable enough to do that.
Yeah, I think subtext sells way better.
And I think those first two scenes did that really well. There was no dialogue in the opening scene where you had some practical body horror effects.
Right.
And it could have included more dialogue. It would have given away more probably. But the actor was doing a really great job of selling, and it was confusing why he wasn't vocalizing in words, but that made sense for I knew there was some kind of sci-fi creature-y type answer to the why. I didn't know what the answer was, but I was intrigued to find out.
Yeah, it's good foreshadowing.
And then they did some pretty good character development where they were just kind of focusing on the one lead actress. She was doing a workout routine and cutting to the other female actress who was watering plants and going about her daily routine. And I was learning so much about these characters without needing to tell me anything about them. If more of that thinking carried through the whole film, I think we would have had a much better film on our hands.
Yeah, I'm with you on a lot of that stuff. Ultimately, I came away kind of disappointed in this film, but I do think there is some really cool things about it. I do think
the effects where they exist were really good.
The practical gore and creature effects were very good. Limited, but good.
When they were sets were really good.
Well, so I have a pushback on a few of those things.
Go for it.
But the production values overall I thought were decent. The camera work was pretty standard coverage, but it was competent and it looked nice lighting wise and stuff like that. So I think,
and it was clearly well designed. It wasn't just trying to make sure we could see everything. I think that's where some low budget films just don't reach that next level because they're just trying to make sure you can see what you want to see and the everything is well lit. It's it doesn't really help craft your narrative. How you light something tells you a lot about something.
Yeah.
I think it was very intentional.
Some of the stuff I struggle with the camera work though was a lot of times they reused sets. There's literally 4 sets in this movie.
Yeah, but they were good sets.
Yeah, you had the cool apartment, you had the bar, you had the underground bar, and then just, I don't know, there's a couple random other things, the coroner's place. But a problem I had is a lot of time is spent at this bar, which by the way is always empty. Which could mean something in the storyline, but again, we'll get to my thoughts on the writing. But the bar, it's always.
I think that's just guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah, but they definitely had permission to shoot at that bar.
They did, but if you throw a bunch of randoms in, that certainly changes how you capture audio.
Well,
it complicates your production.
Well,
if you're gonna film it while they're open.
If you're gonna film while they're open, that's a nightmare. But if you're gonna rent the bar, use it, you should fill it with extras, make it look like it has life.
That would be nice. But that is more complicated.
But my problem with it was we keep going back to these places, and they keep recycling the same framing of the camera.
Oh,
and it
so
felt
you want to see it from different angles, even if you're going to reuse the same.
It got redundant. It felt like. It felt like, and this is probably what they did, they had the location for a day or two and they filmed all those scenes.
That's possible.
But instead of getting creative and realizing this is a different scene, it should have a different feel, it should have something, it should be the camera should be motivated by something. Yeah. Instead it was like standard coverage over the bar. Every time. And that's the stuff where I can nitpick and see, okay, this is probably a micro budget film, probably like made for like less than 50 grand or something.
It's possible that was a solution too to the fact that you didn't have nearly as consistent a look across the whole bar. Where if you turn the camera 180 degrees, this looks like a different location, you're going to confuse people.
Potentially.
Or it's been challenging to get the lighting they wanted in from all angles.
Potentially. Like, I've been watching a lot of Netflix reality shows.
I'm so sorry.
And having shot some reality shows on, like, no money with, like, a couple cameras, you're like, all right, this looks good. But the Netflix money brings, hey, we're going to have 82 angles. This guy scratches his nose. We got the nose camera angle. This guy goes for his pit. We got a camera for that, too. Like, they have so much money. They get every kind of angle. The coverage is ridiculous.
Case, you ready?
I think so.
Oh, shit.
And like, so I am, you know, I understand making indie films. Like, I get time constraints, all that stuff. I just think there could have been better choices made there that I think would have made the movie feel bigger budget. There's a sequence where a guy is like hacking on a computer. And in a larger budget movie, you would have like an establishing shot of the room that's cool. You'd have like a tight shot of him typing. You'd have a closer shot of his face reacting. You'd have a shot of what he's looking at. But in this, it's like one angle, one wide angle, the whole scene. And there's many instances of stuff like that.
But it'd be very easy to blow that up and turn what would be a 6 or 7 day shoot into a 20-day shoot, and all of a sudden
100%.
that triples the budget of the film.
100%. So I get you need to pick and choose your battles. But that stuff stuck out to me. And gave me the impression of a lower budget film. But all that being said,
it is.
A lot of that is nitpicky, I think, from me viewing it as, you know, working in film or whatever. So like I have a different perspective than the general audience maybe for that stuff. But I think the weakest aspect of this film was the writing.
I would agree with that. I don't think all of the writing was bad. Like, they crafted a good story. The dialogue is what was killing me at times.
See, I'll give it a lot of credit for, I think it's a unique idea, and this is a bit of spoiler, even though I think it's kind of explained maybe early on. I don't know. This is a spoiler. The creature's impact on people is that it basically turns them into better people. It takes away their negative or their...
Well, it was making copies of them. It wasn't even them anymore,
Well, yeah,
right?
but it was like it was a version of them that was without...
It certainly had their memories because it knew how to respond to people and relationships. So it was literally copying.
It was almost like it was replicating.
Yeah.
That's a great name for a movie.
Yeah.
But I like that idea. Like, okay, cool. There's something to that. I don't know where you go with it, but I haven't seen it done before. Like, we've all seen Body Snatchers and Stepford Wives and shit like that. Like, this is not a unique idea, but that portion of it did seem a bit unique. I just
Going
think
for a more like gooey alien sci-fi kind of motivation,
But that idea isn't really explored throughout the movie. Like, there's hints at like every guy in the movie.
It was more the mystery of what was going on and only building up to this at the very end.
Yeah, but see, I don't even know if they built up to it, because like it was our main character, what was her name? Darby was this lawyer lady, and like everybody in her life started to get affected by this creature, which was basically her dad and her boyfriend, the sheriff, who was married. And her friend was implicated in it as well. So it was like all around her world, but they didn't sell me on the idea that this was supposed to be spreading in a small town.
Yeah, the scale didn't feel as big as it could have.
Scale wasn't there.
The time frame was also what confused me. If you want to speak to being nitpicky about the storyline, like, it wasn't clear to me how old these women were supposed to be. Because I would certainly say, based on their appearance, upper 20s, maybe lower 30s.
Yeah.
So we're thinking like, 10 to no more than 15 years after high school. Her friend has been under the influence of this creature for, since the night of a bad event that happened to her around high school, I thought it was supposed to be. She was young. She was still a teenager.
I know where you're going. Yes,
So she's under the influence and did nothing for how long?
Yeah, it was like until today, which was like 15 years later, which was
and it
weird.
all happened within, all the events of the story seemed to happen within a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little puzzled by that, and we never really get to hear the creature's perspective much. Like, in some ways, Neela, she kind of spoke for the creature in a way. I thought she was a really excellent actress, actually. She did a really great job.
I think she was the best one, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that anybody was really bad in this, to be clear. I think the main actress is pretty solid too, but I really liked her because she did a really great job of capturing both the really very innocent friend who just wants to water her plants and take care of her bar, but also like she gave a really good like sinister, like I believed she was speaking for the creature and not just saying the words, but like literally being the voice of the creature.
Okay, yeah.
In a very sinister way.
Yeah, I got that. She should have worried about getting more customers at that goddamn bar. And the one customer she had, and I think that was put in as a joke. I don't know that they fucking kicked him out, but
that guy was probably a stand-in for some finance bro who they tried to get to fund the film and refused to do it. Yeah. Or maybe did fund the film and was a huge asshole. Yeah. Sorry if I blew up somebody's spot.
So you have this dad character introduced in the film who's like a pretty pivotal role for our main character.
Yeah.
And he reminded me of like John C. McGinley from Scrubs or something like that.
Okay.
Kind of like
a little bit
brash, overly honest.
But also much more crass.
Much more crass. And he's one of the elements of this movie, outside of our two leads, everyone else is almost like comedic relief. Because we have the coroner who like...
Oh, he's great. I can't believe it took us this long to get to the coroner.
So he was like my favorite character. Yeah. Like he was charismatic and very likable.
Yeah, and he was having a great time.
And he was, but like... So then you have him who's like, he's constantly telling jokes.
So my aunt, her star sign was Cancer. So I guess it's pretty ironic how she died. She was eaten by a really big snake. You get it?
You have the dad who just, there's a whole sequence where he walks around drunk and he's just muttering, like, it's supposed to be funny dialogue to himself. Yeah. Everything he says is supposed to be gross and funny.
But he's supposed to be a little bit the villain of the story. Certainly not the big bad villains. It's weird to make him comedic relief.
Well, that's my problem, is the tone for this movie is inconsistent. And in ways where I think it hurts other elements of the story. Or hurts some of the elements of the story. Like, I didn't feel like the dad relationship was really... I don't know, it was played for a joke, it felt like. So it didn't really hit
in some ways.
Our lead the way she portrayed it to be.
That struck me, and I have no inside knowledge about the film, but it struck me that it wasn't even necessarily intended to be that way, but that was a function of what that actor brought to the character. I don't think it was written to be quite so silly.
Fine. I'll get you an Uber, doll. I need to turn off this video recording on my phone anyway.
What?
Yeah, this night vision recording app is awesome.
Yeah, if you had someone say that stuff, but in like a mean tone, it would come off in a way different...
and being grosser would kind of help the story land a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
Like, trying to make it funny kind of undercuts it a little bit. Like, it's kind of cute if it's funny.
Yeah.
But it's... The things he did were gross.
The things he did were gross. The things he said were gross. But again, it comes off as comedy. She runs into a guy at the lawyer station, wherever that's whatever they're called there. What's it called?
The lawyer station. Yeah, you got it. First
she runs into a guy at the court.
No notes.
And he just starts rattling off jokes.
Hey, you want to hear a joke about parking tickets?
No.
Fine.
Then we go to the
court. Which one do you mean?
There was like a one-off guy where she's like, I forget he had like traffic violation or something.
The doctor? Yeah.
And I was like, all right, why is this in the movie?
It wasn't set up punchline jokes, though. It was more like situational humor.
But it was, what was the purpose?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a setup because he was, I guess we didn't have the background for it, but this was the guy that was giving her dad drugs back in the day. So he's being all sweet and kind and let me help your dad and let me help you because he's a better guy now. but we didn't have the setup to know that he was a shittier guy at one time. We
Right.
come to learn that later,
Like,
and maybe foreshadowing that would have been a little bit too on the nose.
well, they don't connect the dots for me at any point where it's like, oh, this lady is using this creature, however it scientifically works, on shitty people because they deserve it.
You think she was using the creature to do this? I disagree.
Or the creature was using her. Either way, but I didn't.
Then why would the creature care about the quality of the people? I don't know.
But I only learned that what it does or why it does what it does because she said it. I never got the impression that in this town, like, the people were being converted to good people, and our characters became aware of that. Like, no one knew, and then she just outright says it at the end, and it's like, okay, but you didn't. There's no impact to it because I didn't feel the weight of it throughout the rest of the movie. And like, they killed the coroner guy. Why? I don't know. He wasn't even a bad guy.
Yeah, unless there's things about him we don't know.
Sure, but that's
Or maybe he was just learning things that would have been problematic. Part of the challenge here is we don't really understand the creature's motivations. We never hear it in its own voice. Like, it might have been cool in that final scene to have the creature like talk some kind of deep voice kind of a thing, and just like, I'm here from fucking planet Zordon, and we're gonna take
he's
it.
a Power Ranger.
But yeah, but like, I guess my question would be, what is the creature's motivation? Does it want to just take over the world and all the people are replicants?
I don't know.
Or yeah, we don't know, and not knowing is kind of fun.
But maybe. But
Not knowing leaves it open to interpretation, but also, yeah, like, what is the end game here, other than just making humanity better? Why would the creature care?
But I got a strong impression that the filmmakers don't know. Which is like, how do you craft your through line? Like, how do you craft this in a way? And it's clear.
This could have been produced rather quickly.
Yeah.
Or it could have been something that was in the script and got lost in the editing process.
It feels like, to me, it feels like an early draft of a script that wasn't ready. Because like, there's so many, there's many threads that are open too. Like, the whole sound element, of no importance.
It served foreshadowing purposes. That was the early hint that Neela, you said her name was?
Yeah.
That she was, somehow a replicant.
Like, they use the sound thing later on the police officer's radio, and of course.
Oh, is that what that was? I missed that. I thought she was trying to like make it so that other people could hear, like, through his walkie-talkie or whatever.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Like, the Chekhov's gun or whatever, you see the gun, it's going to be used later on in the movie.
Yeah.
They do that, they feel the need to do that with things that I don't think they need to. For instance, they open the movie with her, like, doing kickboxing. I guess so later on in the film, when she kickboxes the police officer, you're like, oh, how would she know how to do that? Early on in the...
I think it was just cool setup for the character, too.
That could potentially be, but earlier on they like use the radio while they're having sex, but accidentally.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Okay, so later on in the
that
movie,
just a humorous
the
moment?
radio's there. I don't know.
I just took that as a humorous moment.
Everything felt a little bit underbaked, underdeveloped for me.
It's possible. Sometimes these low-budget movies get cranked out so fast. Like, they write them in a few days. They get made within a week. I don't know if that's the case with this one, to be clear. I don't have any inside knowledge here. I didn't do any research, and I don't know if there's anything out there for me to have researched anyway.
There's definitely like a nugget here of interesting stuff going on. And again, praise for those practical effects. Like, unfortunately, I think the best scene is the opening one.
Yeah.
For the gore. And it was
Fortunately.
really well done.
And the final scenes were good, too.
And then when the creature's revealed, it looks cool.
Yeah.
But
I will say, though, that the brunette actress, I wish I'd written some notes down here, but the one you called Neela, she's done a whole ton of these kind of movies. We could do a whole series.
KateLynn Newberry?
There we go. She's done a load of these types of movies. She's done like 90 films in the last 10 years.
Shit, I need to get her in one of my movies.
Yeah, so we could do a bunch of them, and some of them looked really interesting. I'm surprised you didn't like this one more, though, for one very specific reason. And in all the years we've been doing video reviews, like we've been doing until just the last week or two.
Until last week when we missed.
You have always been way too fixated on run times. Like, say what you want about this movie. It doesn't waste your time. It gets in, it gets out in an hour and 15. And that saves me a lot of grief over the middle bit, where it's a lot of dialogue and a lot of relationship developing, and a little bit of hint that something weird's going on, but it's all happening off screen.
We've definitely seen worse.
For sure.
It's no Jamal Burden or Justin Price film. Would you recommend it?
I liked it. Yeah.
It's definitely better than like 90% of the schlock you see hit Tubi, where it's
Sure.
like Oh, it's the pie face killer, and it's just gonna be like a horrible guy running around with a knife.
I could see somebody saying that I'd almost rather watch a worse movie if it's not going to be a better movie.
Yeah, it's almost there.
That would be a valid thing to say, but I liked this enough. There were some things that could have been done better. You know, I'll grant that. But overall, I think it was a pretty competent movie, and it was interesting enough to warrant the time spent for an hour and 15 minutes. And
Yeah, I think once it hits Tubi, I'd say give it a chance, and it might be up your alley. So
Yeah.
that's gonna do it for Replicator. Ian, we'll be back next time watching another film, and we don't know what that will be, but catch us here.
Definitely be here next week. I just need to run and go grab a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.